When you say Chad Daybell spoke at these conferences, um, you touched on it a little before that maybe Lori Vallow wasn't about this religious stuff, right?
No, I don't believe I said that. I do believe she believed pretty much everything that Chad Daybell said.
Okay. And maybe what you testified to is that you questioned the accuracy of it in one of the text messages that you put up on the board. Do you recall saying something about that? No?
I don't, if you can direct me to this particular message.
So Chad Daybell started writing these books well before she ever met Lori Vallow. He met Lori Vallow, correct?
Yes.
And he wrote these books about his experiences and about his theories and interpretation of what he felt was the teachings of the LDS faith, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Introduces facts, not an evidence. I believe counsel's testifying.
Sustained.
Well, he wrote a lot of books about religious issues, correct?
Yes, I think most of his books had to do with kind of an end of times theme.
And he would go on these various, go to various places and speak about his books and try to sell books.
Correct.
This was sort of a way to market or to make a living by talking about various religious feelings about religion, and then he'd go on and speak to people, and then in the meantime try to make a living or try to make money selling these books to people, right?
Yes.
And the predominant audience that he would go to, these encampments, these gatherings, these various locales, for the most part, they were centered around Utah, correct?
No, I mostly, well, St. George, Mesa, there was one in Boise. So the Intermountain West.
And you beat me to the punch because I was about to start with Utah, then say Arizona, then say Idaho. But you know, the predominant audience that these books were marketing to were people in Utah, Arizona, Idaho, correct?
That's where he spoke, yes.
And they were predominantly marketed to people of the LDS faith, right?
I think so.
And they were marketed to the people who would want to go to these various seminars about preparing for the end of time, right?
Yes.
And these people weren't all members of a cult, were they?
Not to my knowledge.
And there were various audiences who would show up and listen to Chad Daybell talk and sell his books, right?
Yes.
So the fact that he has Lori Vallow, Alex Cox, Melanie Gibb, and David Warwick, who were friends of his, right?
Well, I think the relationship with Alex Cox and Lori Vallow was closer than what it was, different than those other names that you mentioned, and closer than friendship.
Right. But let's take, and we'll talk a little bit about the Alex Cox-Lori Vallow relationship, but as far as the other wars were concerned, all of the emails and all of the text messages, that you talked about, they had a recurring theme. These people were friends, right?
Yes.
And these friends talked about religious beliefs, correct?
Yes.
And these religious beliefs may not be what everybody else believes in, but they seem to have a consistent theme, and they were all consistent in believing whatever Lori, Chad, David, and Melanie were talking about. Would that be fair?
I think that's fair.
Okay. So when you talk about a group, we're really talking about a group of friends who have some maybe not traditional beliefs, but have religious beliefs, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the text I put up there from Lori to Chad, and it's the one line 836. I'll wait. Let me know when you're ready.
Mhm.
You okay? You all set?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you take that as being would you take that as being in somewhat of a sarcastic tone?
No, I think Lori was pushing Chad and was serious.
Okay. So you should give all of your love and your attention to your wife and family. That's what she's saying, right?
Yes.
I'm just a distraction. Go have fun with your family. There's nothing sarcastic about that?
Well, if you look at Chad Daybell's reaction, which is that is so crushing and I feel so destroyed inside, I don't think he took it as being sarcastic.
Okay. I really do want you to. I just can't be in the way anymore. If things change, then we can talk, but we have nothing until things change. So she's basically drawing a line in the sand and saying, unless something changes, we have nothing to do with each other. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay. So what she's doing is she's saying that unless something happens, either you divorce your wife or you kill your wife or your wife dies, you don't have me.
I agree.
Okay. And then Chad responds, I'm constantly begging for change below. You see that?
I do.
But I'm hindering your life and you deserve better. I love you so intensely. Okay. You see that?
I do.
The text following that, did any of them say, all right, I agree with you, Lori. Let's kill Tammy. You find any of those?
I found a number of texts talking about Tammy's death percentage in
Right.
subsequent conversations.
Yeah. You're also aware that Chad Daybell, or maybe you're not, but are you aware that since 2016, Chad Daybell had been talking to these public audiences about the fact that Tammy was going to have a very short life?
I was aware that he made those statements to particular individuals. I'm not aware that he spoke of that publicly, but yes, I know that he communicated that Tammy was going to die to a number of people.
Right. And these other individuals are friends and family of Chad Daybell, who are also friends and family of Tammy Daybell, correct?
That I don't know. I can tell you the ones that I do know that he spoke with
Okay.
and I'm not aware that they knew Tammy.
Okay. Okay. So it wasn't necessarily a secret that Chad was keeping with anybody since 2016, that he felt he had a premonition or a belief that his wife was going to have a short life, right?
There were certain people he communicated that to, correct?
Right. And when I'm reading through the text messages and you went through your presentation, am I wrong when I'm reading these messages to read into this that Chad was waiting for Tammy to pass away and that was what the delay was, correct?
It could be that, or it could be waiting to take action.
Okay. So we don't know what it was, right?
From the investigation, I believe I know what it was.
Okay. Well, people differ in their opinions, right? Right?
They do.
Yeah. And Judge, could we approach for just a minute?
Yes.
Best laid plans.
All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, there's a thumb drive with a file in it. It may be a thumb drive that's having few issues because it wanted to pull files and then it didn't. So we'll see if it will.
And it's here. Judge, I got it.
Okay, all right.
Surprise. Magical words. You did it. And Judge, I'm going to try to publish off of Exhibit 7 an email from, I believe it was from the Lolly Time, previously admitted Exhibit number 7.
All right, once you have that pulled up on your screen, let us know and then I'll.
Judge, I'm ready.
Okay, I'll instruct the clerk this time to allow that to be published then.
Okay. Now, you previously mentioned about Phoebe, was your recollection was that it was Melanie Gibb. Is that correct?
I testified that I wasn't 100% certain of that, but I don't dispute that that's.
Okay. So at the top, this is a text message from Phoebe from the Lolly Time to Lori Valor. Would you read the first line?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks. I love you so much. I'm going to teach right now, teaching about discerning and shutting off dark portals.
Okay, and then the one below that.
I could see the darkness so clearing last night when I was teaching last night. Their eyes were dark like marbles.
Okay, now the date of those messages was when?
July 25th of 2019.
were you aware during your investigation where Melanie Gibb was teaching on that particular occasion?
No, I'm not.
Okay. You are aware that Melanie Gibb taught classes, variety of different things about vibrations and about light and dark, correct?
I wasn't aware that she taught classes. I know there was a podcast and group discussions and things like that.
Right. She would go to encampments or she would go to programs and be a speaker talking about a variety of religious topics, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so when Melanie Gibb talks about dark portals, is that something she's talking about that's consistent with the LDS faith to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. When she's talking about eyes being like dark marbles, is that also something that's consistent with being of the LDS faith?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Okay. And to avoid, and Judge, we can bring that down now. I'm done. But during your research, there were other individuals that talked about putting numeric numbers on people with dark and light, right?
There was one single instance in all of my review where Lori Vallow disputed a designation made by Chad Daybell. So that's the only other time I'm aware of anyone else putting those numbers on
Okay.
individuals.
Okay, and all I want to do is just have you confirm then for me. In the review of all of those 10,000 plus text messages, are you telling me that other than Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, they were the only ones who talked about dark and light and put a numeric number on someone?
I am testifying that the only times I saw those numbers being generated, with the exception of one occasion, were all by Chad Daybell.
Okay, okay. And all of the people that were designated, well, so other than Chad Daybell, your testimony then is that nobody else put numeric numbers on people as it related to dark and light. Is that right?
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered.
Sustained.
Okay. You brought up a subject about the process of sealing. Remember that in the very beginning of your testimony?
It's part of the James and Elena story, correct?
Right. But you also explained that what sealing is in your definition, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now I understood sealing to be part of a marriage process when two couples of the LDS faith go into a temple and they perform a private ceremony. Is that what you understand it to be as well?
Yes, when two people go to get married, correct.
Right. And that is a process in which, and I don't want to go into, we don't need to go into significant detail about this, but it's a religious symbolism to show that they have an intent to wanting to be together the rest of their life, right?
Correct.
And they're basically sealing themselves to each other in essence, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Has nothing to do with death or anything like that. It has everything to do with the celebration of the marriage ceremony, correct?
It's a marriage ordinance that's performed in LDS temples.
Okay. All right. Okay. And Judge, I'm going to stop there. That's all I have at this point, Judge. Thank you.
All right, that will conclude cross-examination of the witness. Redirect from the state.
Agent Hart, you were just asked about the ceiling reference in one of those messages. Do you recall testifying about that before?
I do.
And you were asked specifically about it dealing with the marriage ceremony by Mr. Pryor, correct?
Yes,
And previously, did you testify that there are also sealings done for people that have passed away?
that's correct.
And when you referenced the James and Elena story, was that your understanding of what was being referenced at that time?
Judge calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Was that your understanding of what was being referenced in the James and Elena story?
Yes, the ceilings being referred to in the James and Elena story are what they call proxy, meaning that genealogical research is done and that a man and a woman go in and based on historical records, if two people had been married, they then perform that marriage ceremony in their behalf. That the two people performing the ceremony aren't getting married. They're as stand-in for people based on genealogical research who are being sealed.
And at the time that was done, that was in the November of 2018.
November 16th of 2018.
And at that time, was Charles Vallow still alive?
No, he was not. Or excuse me, yes, he was. I'm sorry, I was thinking of 2019.
2019. So in November of 2018, Charles Vallow was still alive.
He was.
And in November of 2018, was Tammy Daybell still alive?
She was.
And is part of the idea behind the sealing that you would be married for eternity?
Judge, leading question.
Sustain.
When we looked at those messages, if you recall, was the indication that Chad believed or was indicating he and Lori would be married eternally?
That's precisely what was stated in Chad's writing.
Through your investigation, were you able to determine where the teachings of light and dark originated as far as this particular group of individuals you were asked about?
They originated from Chad Daybell.
And you indicated Melanie Gibb was one of the individuals that would have received those teachings?
I believe so, yes.
You were asked some questions about levels and light and dark, and specifically in reference to Allie Bloomer. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Was Allie Bloomer a telestial relative of Chad or Lori?
Not to my knowledge.
And we talked a little bit about that telestial relative, the meaning of that, and Mr. Pryor put that slide back up. You'd referenced that it is the lowest kingdom. Would that also be, would telestial refer here on earth?
Yes.
So the reference was the telestial relatives were obstacles.
Correct.
Through your investigation, did you learn if Charles was ever deemed dark?
Charles Vallow?
Charles Vallow.
He was.
Did you ever learn whether Tylee Ryan was deemed dark?
She was.
Did you ever learn whether JJ Vallow was deemed dark?
He was deemed to have turned into a zombie, which
Judge, unresponsive.
Overruled.
is parallel to being dark, being inhibited by a dark entity.
And what about Tammy Daybell? Did you ever learn whether she was deemed dark?
Again, she was deemed to have been inhibited by a dark entity.
And based on your investigation and looking through these messages, who was the one that would determine if someone was light or dark?
Chad Daybell.
And of those 4 relatives that we talked about, are you aware of their current status?
All four are dead.
I have no further questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Blake. I don't think we got outside the scope of cross there or direct, so won't permit recross for this witness. That will conclude the testimony of Agent Hart. Is he going to be recalled potentially by either side?
He is going to be recalled by the state, Your Honor.
And he's going to be called by the defense as well, Judge.
All right, Agent Hart, going forward, then you're still under the court's exclusionary order, which disallows you from watching this trial or discussing your testimony or anybody else's testimony before you return to testify. I'll question you about that when you retake the stand in the future. So please abide by that exclusionary order. And with that, you may go ahead and step down, and thank you for your. Thank you, Judge. You're welcome. Yes, I'll have the bailiff retrieve that exhibit, please. And where we took our break already this morning, we'll intend to go forward till lunch. Does the state have another witness to call at this time?
Yes, Your Honor, the state would call Sydney Woodbury Shank.
Swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
All right, the court will note the witness has been placed under oath at this time, so I am going to inquire. This case has been live streamed and available for view by the public in general or anyone interested. So, Ms. Woodbury Shank, have you watched this trial or observed any of the trial testimony since the trial began?
No,
Okay. Have you discussed with anyone else your testimony, anyone that has testified in this case?
no.
All right. Thank you for your responses then, Mr. Wood. If you'd like to inquire on direct, you may.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Could you state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Yeah, it's Sydney Shank, SCHENK.
Ms. Shank, what state do you currently reside in?
I currently reside in Arizona.
Did you, have you ever lived in Rexburg, Idaho?
Yes, in 2019, I lived in Rexburg, Idaho.
What were you doing there?
I was attending college at Brigham Young University, Idaho.
Were you working at the time?
I was not.
Okay. Were you looking for work?
Yes.
What kind of work were you looking for?
I, in the past, have nannied and babysat. I enjoy watching kids, so I went on a website called care.com, looking for a job opportunity to be a nanny.
Through care.com, did you ever meet a Lori Vallow?
Yes. So I posted a job listing that I wanted to nanny, and she replied to my listing, and we got in contact on the website, and then later messaged through text and set up a time for me to come meet her and her son JJ.
Where did you meet her?
I met them at her townhome in Rexburg.
And do you remember approximately when you met her?
Yeah, it was September 18th.
And did you, through that conversation, did you learn if JJ had any special needs?
Yes. So she mentioned, yeah, he has autism and that he had difficulty focusing at times and had some behavioral difficulties at times. And yeah, that he needed extra help.
When you met with her, did she say anything about her husband?
She did. She mentioned as we got to know each other that they had just moved to Rexburg from Arizona and that her husband recently passed away from a heart attack and that JJ was kind of struggling to understand that.
Did she tell you anything else about JJ?
Not really that day, just yeah, but he had autism and some difficulties.
Did she speak with you at all about a daughter named Tylee?
She didn't mention her name, but she did say she had a daughter that was living in town, attending college, and that sometimes she would come to visit and do laundry or come home for dinner, and sometimes would babysit, but that she didn't like babysitting without being paid. And so she wanted someone else to come in and help her.
And so, from your understanding, was this daughter living in a separate location than Lori Vallow?
From what I understood, yes.
And this was on September 18th of 2019.
Yes.
Did she hire you to watch JJ?
Yes. So we had discussed coming in the future and coming the next day. She needed to go to the airport to pick up a friend and she needed some help watching him just for a few hours. So I came the next day on the 8th or the 19th to watch JJ.
Did she, and approximately how many hours did you watch him that day?
I want to say 3 to 4 hours.
Did Lori say anything to you about JJ's medications?
She did. She, when I arrived, explained like what to feed him and some activities to do. And then also that if she got home later, that I could give him some medication to help him sleep.
So tell us about watching JJ. What do you remember about that experience?
I remember him playing with the neighbor kids the majority of the time, and it was going fine. He was a fun kid, and he eventually went over to the next door neighbor's house to play. And I fed him some dinner before he left. And eventually his mom was going to come home soon. So I went back and picked him up from the friend's house. And he seemed really upset and just sad. They had a little tiff about sharing toys or something. And he was pretty upset. And I tried to calm him down best I could, but he had some behavioral difficulties calming down and was getting a bit aggressive and angry.
Did you have any other contact with Lori Vallow that night?
I did. So she came home from the airport with her friend, and her brother was there, and she tried to help me calm down JJ. And just in the midst of kind of him freaking out, I just left and she paid me. Yeah.
Did you have any further communications with Lori Vallow?
I did. So a couple days later, I messaged her again, hoping to work again. This, from my understanding, was going to be a longer term job that I could work for her few times a week as she needed it. And asked when I could come back. And she said that JJ went with his grandparents for a month and that she was in Hawaii for a month. And that after that month had passed, I could reach out to her again to reschedule another time to babysit.
And did you ever try to do that?
I did. Yeah, I called her and texted her and never got a response back from that point on. I didn't speak with her at all.
So you never heard from her again?
No.
Did Lori Vallow ever mention the name Chad Daybell to you?
No.
Right. So you, through your contact with her, you never heard of a Chad Daybell?
No, never.
Your Honor, that's all the questions the state has for now.
All right, Mr. Pryor, cross-examination.
It's still morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Do you have a recollection of about what time Lori Vallow returned home
I I don't know for sure, but it was around dinner times, probably around 5 or 6 at night.
Okay, you mentioned that it was about 3 or 4 hours that you watched JJ, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And then and this was Thursday, right?
Yes.
And then what time did you arrive to start the babysitting?
I don't know for sure, but must have been 4 hours before that. So around maybe 1 o'clock.
Okay.
I don't know for sure though.
And you mentioned that you fed JJ that day. You fed him dinner.
Yes, yeah.
Is it possible it was after dinner?
That what was after dinner?
When Lori Vallow returned?
Yes, yeah.
So you don't know about what time after dinner, though?
No, not for sure.
Okay. Okay. Now, before you started babysitting JJ that day, Lori warned you about some behavioral problems, right?
Yes, yeah.
Warned you how to distract him, do things to distract him, show him a show,
Yeah.
or keep him preoccupied because JJ suffered from a form of autism, from what I understand, correct? Right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And when Lori left, did she leave with anybody?
Yes, she left with her brother.
Do you remember what his name was?
I believe it was Alex.
Okay. And do you know about what time they left?
I would guess around 1 o'clock. Shortly after I arrived, they left.
Okay. Okay. And they were going to pick up a friend on Thursday that day, correct?
Correct.
And do you know the name of that friend that they were going to pick up Thursday afternoon?
I did not.
Did you happen to see her when she arrived?
Yes.
Can you describe what color her hair was?
It was a long time ago.
Okay.
But from what I remember, I want to say blonde,
Okay.
but honestly, I don't remember for sure.
And a slender lady.
Yeah.
Did anybody mention the name Melanie by any chance?
I can't say for sure. I don't remember.
At some point later, did you find out who that other friend was?
No.
Okay. And you noted I read the officer's report about the interview with you. You noted that she came in and she didn't have any luggage with her.
Yeah, that's correct.
And that struck you as kind of odd.
Yes. I didn't know how long she was staying, so or maybe she left it in the car. I don't know.
Okay, you don't know.
Yeah.
But she didn't come in with the luggage, right?
No.
Okay. Okay. And you noted that there were some behavioral problems with JJ right off the beginning, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Something about going upstairs and he knocked a mirror on the bed or something.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
He was just kind of freaking out. And when we came home from the friend's house, he kind of threw like the ottoman and a chair down. And then he ran upstairs and wanted space. And I heard something fall and it was the mirror. So I went up to check on him to make sure that he was okay. And I saw that, yeah, it was broken.
So, from what I understand, you're telling me is that Lori Vallow warned you ahead of time that JJ had some behavioral problems.
Correct.
Maybe not to the extent you experienced, though, right?
Yeah.
And this was a handful of activity with JJ, right?
Correct.
Throwing a lot of things, correct?
Yes.
Misbehaving, tantrums,
Yes.
throwing things upstairs, throwing things downstairs,
Yes.
climbing up and down all over the furniture.
Yes.
And this was on the 18th, Thursday, the 18th of September, and you were alone with JJ when all of this was going on, right?
It was the 19th.
I'm sorry, the
Yeah.
19th, Thursday, the 19th.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then at that point, after you had sort of straightened things up in Lori's house, you went over to pick him up with the friend, right?
No, he was upset and throwing stuff after the friend's house.
Okay. But before he started throwing the stuff, he was over at a friend's.
Correct.
And was there a little bit of drama over there as well?
Correct.
Talk about that with me a little bit. What kind of drama did we have while he was over at the friend's house?
From what I remember, they were just upset about a toy or sharing a toy,
Okay,
and JJ had a hard time doing that.
okay. So when, and I'm bouncing around for a reason, so please bear with me. When the person who showed up from the airport on the 19th, the only people in the house at that point would have been the person they picked up at the airport, Alex Cox, Lori Vallow, and JJ, right?
Correct. Yes,
And at no point during that time did you ever see anybody else at the house. Is that right?
that's correct.
Okay. You never heard anybody mention the name Chad Daybell, did you?
No,
Now, were you aware that JJ and Tylee had a very close relationship?
no, I wasn't
Okay.
aware.
But interestingly, you noted to the officer that when um, when Lori and her friend and Alex got home, you told Lori about, JJ's behavior.
Correct.
And to some extent, it was still going on, correct?
That's correct.
And at that point, you made note of the fact that Lori seemed to be acting in a particular way towards JJ, right?
Correct.
And you said it appeared to be a little overwhelming. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, I felt, and maybe I was judging, but I felt as if she was too comforting to him and didn't try to correct that behavior. Because to me, throwing chairs and breaking stuff isn't an appropriate behavior. And instead of correcting that, she was more just emotionally there for him and like being very sweet and kind to him, which I guess is a loving mother. But to me, that was a little strange that she wouldn't correct that inappropriate behavior.
Right. And you viewed her behavior as over nurturing.
Yeah,
She went over the top.
correct.
She was cuddling him too much.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And all of this behavior that you saw, the active behavior by JJ at that time, did that continue on while you were there? Lori was there, Alex, and this other person?
He seemed to calm down a little more once she came,
Okay.
and it improved a little.
Okay. And lastly, while you were there, the person that they picked up at the airport, when all of this behavior was going on and you were trying to explain to Lori, did the person who they picked up at the airport, did she ever use the word zombie?
No,
Did Lori Vallow at that time ever use the word zombie to describe Alex's erratic behavior?
no,
Did Alex Cox ever use the word zombie to describe JJ's erratic behavior?
no,
Did anyone in that house at the time, when JJ was acting up, use the word zombie?
no,
Did you ever hear the words from JJ using the words zombie?
no.
I have nothing else.
All right.
Nothing on redirect.
All right, that concludes the testimony of this witness then. Thank you for appearing today. Will this witness be recalled by either side?
Not by the state.
Ms. Pryor?
No, Judge. Oh,
Okay,
it's on, Judge. No.
all right, that concludes your testimony then. You may be released. Thank you for appearing today. All right, state have another witness lined up to call before we start lunch.
Yes, Your Honor, the state would call Dr. Josh Wilson.
Okay.
solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
All right, now that the witness has been sworn and taken the stand, I am going to inquire about the court's exclusionary order. This case is being live streamed on the court's channel, and I want to inquire, have you observed any of this trial testimony before you took the stand today?
No, Judge.
Okay, have you discussed with anyone else their testimony that's been given in this trial?
No, Judge.
Okay, thank you for your responses. Ms. Beatty, if you'd like to inquire, you may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Wilson, can you please state your full name and spell your last name?
David Joshua Wilson, Wilson.
And you go by Josh?
Yes.
Okay. Where are you currently employed?
Madison School District in Rexburg, Idaho.
And what is your job title there?
I'm a building principal for Kennedy Elementary.
And Kennedy Elementary School is in Rexburg, Idaho.
Yes.
Were you employed as the principal of Kennedy Elementary School in Rexburg in 2019?
Yes.
Do you recall a former student named Joshua Jackson or JJ Fallow?
Yes.
When, if you recall, did JJ enroll at Kennedy Elementary?
The beginning of September, I believe September 3rd was his first day of 2019.
Do you recall who, if anyone, accompanied JJ to enroll him in school?
Yes, his mother, Lori.
What, if anything, did his mother, Lori, tell you about JJ's enrollment?
That they were moving from Arizona. Her husband had just passed away from a heart attack, and that they were moving to Rexburg to be closer to family.
How long was JJ enrolled at Kennedy Elementary?
3 weeks. I believe his last day was September 21st.
And do you recall having any communication with Lori Vallow or anyone else about JJ's enrollment at Kennedy Elementary?
Yes. Mom had contacted the school. We were trying to get a hold of her to finish some assessments. JJ had special needs, and so we were in the process of finishing up assessments to see how we could help him be successful at school. We were trying to get a hold of Mom to finish that up, and Mom had informed us that they were moving, or that JJ would be moving to Louisiana.
And just really quickly, how did she communicate that to you?
Over the phone.
Okay, so, and what else did she tell you, if anything?
During that conversation, I had indicated that once they get over to Louisiana, just have that school that they enroll into request records, and we would be happy to pass those along. She then indicated that they weren't going to enroll in public school, that they were going to homeschool, that they had a cousin with similar needs, and that they would be homeschooling. And then I informed her that we would house JJ's records there at Kennedy, and whenever they chose to enroll in public school again, whether it be back in Rexburg or somewhere else, that's where the records would be.
And at any time after that conversation, did you receive any requests for JJ Vallow's records?
No.
Okay. And Your Honor, if I may have just a moment.
Yes.
And Your Honor, I have no further questions for this witness.
All right, thank you, Ms. Beatty. Any cross-examination, Mr. Pryor?
Refer you as principal, or how can I refer to you?
Sure. Principal.
Principal?
Yep.
Okay. So principal, from what I understand, the discussion with Miss Fallow was by way of a phone conversation. Is that right?
Correct.
Did at any time was a child enrolled in the school at Kennedy Elementary?
Yes.
And did that child attend the school?
Yes.
And for how long a time did that child attend the school?
About 3 weeks.
Okay. And during that initial phone conversation with Miss Vallow, did the name Chad Daybell ever come up?
No,
Did you ever see Chad Daybell at the school picking JJ up?
no,
Did you ever have any mention of any kind whatsoever in the JJ Vallow was at your school of the name Chad Daybell?
no.
I have nothing else. Thank you, Judge.
All right, any redirect?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. That will conclude the testimony of this witness. Is the state intending to recall the witness?
No, Your Honor, he can be excused.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thanks for testifying. You're excused from any subpoena and you can step down. Thank you. They have another witness lined up.
Yes, Your Honor, the state would call Wynn Hill.
Thank you.
That or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. It's
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Hill, now that you've been placed under oath, let me just ask you a few questions before you testify. Because this case is being broadcast and available for public view, I want to ask if you have viewed or listened in on any of the testimony in the trial up to this point.
I have not.
Okay, have you discussed with anyone else their testimony they provided?
Nope.
All right, thank you. Ms. Beatty, you can inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, could you please state your full name and then spell your last name?
My name is Wynn Hill, Hill,
And sir, where are you employed?
at Brigham Young University, Idaho,
And where is that located?
Rexburg, Idaho.
How long have you been employed by Brigham Young University, Idaho?
Yeah, I've been there 18 years.
What is your current job title there?
I'm a therapist in the counseling center.
And prior to being a therapist in the counseling center, did you have a different job title?
I did. I was the dean of students there.
Were you the dean of students in 2019 and early 2020?
I was.
And in February, well, let me back up a little bit. As dean of students, did you have access to a student file management system?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we have a student management system. Yes.
Does that system allow you to look at it to determine who is currently enrolled?
Yes.
Does that system allow you to look at who may have been enrolled in the past?
Yes.
Does it allow you to look at who may have applied to the school and not necessarily enrolled?
Yeah. Anyone who starts an application. Yes.
Were you contacted by law enforcement in February of 2020 to do a records check on an individual named Tylee Ryan?
I was. Yes.
Did you check that individual in the student file management system?
I did. Yeah. They asked me to check the name Tylee Ryan, Tylee Vallows, and Tylee Cox, date of birth 9/24/02, and I did check that. Yes.
Were you able to determine if this individual was a current student?
Yes, they weren't. In fact, we had no record of any of those names.
Did you have any record that this individual had ever even applied to
No.
BYU, Idaho?
Nothing.
If I may have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
And Your Honor, I have no further questions for this witness.
All right, thank you, Ms. Beatty. Mr. Pryor, cross-examination.
No notebook, so it's going to be short. Did you ever have an occasion to talk to Lori Vallow on the phone?
No.
Did you ever discuss an application with anybody? Alex Cox, Lori Vallow?
Nope.
Did you ever discuss an application, or did anybody in your organization discuss an application with a Tylee Ryan?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, and obviously you'd never heard the name Chad Daybell in relation to any application process for Tylee Ryan, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, nothing else. Thank you.
Any redirect?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, either side intend to recall the witness.
No, Judge.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, that'll conclude your testimony then. Thank you for appearing. You're released from any subpoena and you can go ahead and step down from the witness stand.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes. All right, I discussed in a sidebar with counsel scheduling for the day. The morning's gone more quickly than the state anticipated in terms of lining up their witnesses. We're going to take the lunch recess at this time. We will take a longer break today in order to allow for appearance of afternoon witnesses. So the lunch recess will begin and we will come back on for additional testimony at 1 o'clock. Does that work with the state
Yes, Your Honor.
defense?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone. We'll be in recess until then.
All right, please.
Witness the lies.
I didn't lie to you on that polygraph, I promise.
The cover-ups.
I could see his brain.
The moments they confessed.
I grabbed one of the kitchen knives. I killed him.
Outrageous police interrogations.
I know, I forgot the head. I wanted the head.
You have to see to believe.
Oh my God.
Law and crime